Since the start of the Cold War, Europe's ability to manufacture military aircraft has decreased dramatically. Today, only a select few fighter aircraft are built on the continent. Large multinational projects have resulted in the Eurofighter, whilst France's substantial military industry has produced the Mirage 2000, a reliable modernisation of a tested classic, and the Rafale, arguably Europe's most capable and versatile fighter aircraft. The Swedish Aeroplane Company, or Saab, formed in 1937, emerged during the mid-20th century as an unexpected but highly capable manufacturer of military jet aircraft. They have produced 7 military jets since the 1940s, improving their own manufacturing abilities with each and culminating in 3 iconic designs. The Saab 35 Draken, a Mach 2 capable fighter from the 50s, the Saab 37 Viggen, a 1960s multirole strike aircraft, and now the Yas 39 Gripen, a highly agile multirole fighter like the F-16. Today we look at Saab's jet aircraft and how this small company has competed with some of the largest aircraft manufacturers in the world, building some of Europe's best domestic fighter aircraft. While often associated with car manufacturing and the production of other consumer utilities, Saab was created by the Swedish engineering company AB Bofors, who reformed the aircraft engine division of a recently purchased locomotive and engine manufacturer, NOHAB. Working with the Swedish Air Force, Saab first entered aviation through a merger with ASJA, the Swedish Railway Workshops aeroplane department, which had been building aircraft in Linköping since the 1930s. This partnership formed the foundation of Saab's design and production capability, leading to a series of domestically produced aircraft under license. The Saab 17 light dive bomber in 1940, the Saab 18 fast bomber in 1944, and the distinctive twin-boom Saab 21 fighter in 1945. After World War II, the company also expanded into the automotive field, establishing Saab Automobiles and releasing its first car in 1949, a move that would define much of its public legacy. Nonetheless, military aircraft manufacturing remained a central focus for the parent company, Saab AB, with Linköping continuing as its aviation hub. With the widespread adoption of jet engine aircraft, Saab manufacturers got to work on their first proper, domestically produced jet fighter. In 1950, a new design would come into service, the Saab 21R, created by heavily modifying the piston engine Saab 21. This new aircraft was a single-engine fighter, with the capacity to fill a strike role as well. Over 120 were initially ordered, but this was rolled back to 64. Powered by the de Havilland Goblin 2 engine, the 21R was a small but relatively capable aircraft. 2 initial variants were in service, the J-21RA fighter and A-21RA, modified to carry air-to-ground ordnance. Later, there was a second set of derivatives, essentially by upgrading to the Goblin 3 engine, the J-21RB fighter and A-21RB multi-role attack aircraft. The aircraft had a top speed of around 800 km per hour, a service ceiling of about 36,000 feet, and a combat range of roughly 480 kilometers. Armament consisted of a nose-mounted battery of 120mm cannon and 4 13.2mm machine guns, supplemented by bombs, unguided rockets, gun pods, or drop tanks on external hardpoints. In essence, the design was not cutting edge. However, it offered the Swedish Air Force something that could carry them into the jet age, not too dissimilar to the de Havilland Vampire, although heavier, or the Yak-15. It would serve for just a few years, retiring in 1956. 1951 marked the service entry of Sweden's first purpose-built jet fighter, the nation's second jet type overall. The Saab 29 Tunnan, as it was called, would differ from the 21R. Powered by the de Havilland Ghost engine, it featured an entirely different airframe, more modern-looking and better suited for the fighter role. It had swept wings, a more aerodynamic fuselage, far better performance, and far greater potential versatility. During testing, the prototype J-29 had proven to be better than expected. As test pilots noted, despite its strange outward appearance, which earned it the nickname Barrel, the J-29 test aircraft was faster than expected. During its early years in service, it would set several speed records: a world speed record of 977 km per hour over a 500 km circuit in 1954, and the following year 900 km per hour over a 1,000 km circuit. On paper, the Tunnan had a top speed of 1,060 km per hour, a range of 1,100 km, and a good service ceiling around 50,000 feet. Over its lifetime of upgrades, the aircraft was modified to carry a variety of weapons: 20mm Hispano 5 cannons, air-to-air and air-to-ground rockets, incendiary bombs, and by 1963, the AIM-9B Sidewinder. In this manner, it outperformed Sweden's fleet of British Vampire fighters and offered unique advantages, such as the ability to operate from rough or uneven landing strips. Entering service, several variants would be produced in what would be Sweden's largest production of jet aircraft, totaling over 600 aircraft. 224 Alpha models would be built between 1951 and 1955 to fill the role of fighter. The improved Bravo model, also a fighter, would see 332 units produced between 1953 and 1955. 76 Charlie reconnaissance versions would be produced between 1954 and 1956. The Echo model would emerge in 1955. A fighter, it had an improved wing design allowing for better speed and agility, with 29 built. And finally, the Foxtrot variant, produced from 1955 onward by modifying A and B airframes to a new standard. Among the upgrades included an afterburning engine. It was the first time the de Havilland Ghost was successfully adapted with an afterburner and mass-produced for service. Austria would purchase 30 such aircraft. In 1961, the Tunnan would be called up for combat, contributing to the UN effort in Congo. The aircraft would fly on combat sorties, the first Swedish jet aircraft to serve in combat. By its retirement in 1976, the Tunnan had the largest production run of any Swedish jet fighter, a title it holds until this day, with 661 units produced. The learning curve that came with operating a swept-wing aircraft led to a high incident rate. However, technologically it marked an important leap forward for Saab. Saab would produce what could be considered its first truly modern jet fighter, the Saab 32 Lansen. Far more advanced than its predecessors, the Lansen would be transonic, swept-wing, and closer in outward appearance and capabilities to modern British designs of the era. Like the Canberra, it would be powered by the Rolls-Royce Avon 200 series and feature a similar profile to the Hawker Hunter. A long time in the making, the Lansen was intended to meet several requirements that its predecessors could not. Given Cold War threats, the design had to be all-weather capable, day or night, and fast enough to reach any point along Sweden's 2,000 kilometers of coastline within an hour. Once on station, it would require radar capabilities and specifically be able to fill an attack role. Entering service in 1956, the attack model, A-32A, would be highly capable, able to carry cannons, air-to-ground rockets, a variety of bombs, and the RB-04 anti-ship missile, complete with a radar warning receiver. The A-32A would be used in maritime defense and ground attack roles. The J-32B would be an all-weather fighter, entering service in 1958, with a specific focus on bad weather and nighttime operations. Featuring 30mm cannons, it could also carry unguided rockets and license-built Sidewinder missiles. The S-32C would be the third version, designed to fill the role of photo and maritime reconnaissance. It featured 6 cameras and an improved radar. Several other variants were built, the most notable being the J-32E, which would fill an electronic countermeasures role. In this role, it featured a jamming system which could operate on particular frequency bands against ground and sea targets, whilst jamming pods could be equipped for use against aerial targets. Overall, the aircraft was capable of a top speed of 1,100 km per hour at sea level, with a service ceiling of around 50,000 feet and a range of 2,000 kilometers. 455 would be built. Technically, it was an impressive development for Saab. However, like with the Tunnan, the incident rate was high. Over the course of its service life, various issues had resulted in 1/3 of the entire fleet being destroyed. It would serve over 4 decades, finally being retired from service in 1997. Saab had begun research on a small delta wing design, and by January 21, 1952, was test flying such a concept. Designated Saab 210 and referred to as the Lilldraken or Little Dragon, the design was meant to test the double delta design, specifically to gauge its performance at low speeds. 2 variants would be produced, the A and B, the primary difference between the two being the length of wing roots. The A model had a large wing, with the wing roots extending up beyond the canopy. The B model would move these back, giving the pilot better forward and side visibility. A 70% scale build, it was intended from its outset to be a testbed for what would become Saab's first truly cutting-edge jet fighter. In October 1955, Saab's revolutionary interceptor would take to the skies for the first time. Based on the Saab 210 testbed, this new double-delta aircraft would be Mach 2 capable, with surprising agility. It was called the Saab 35 Draken, meaning dragon or kite. The Draken would be a proud milestone for Saab. It would be the first effective double-delta aircraft to enter service, and the first Western European production aircraft capable of Mach 2, beating the Mirage 3 by several months. The design had been drawn up as an interceptor, emerging during a critical time during the Cold War. By the mid-50s, both superpowers had an assortment of aircraft either in production or on the drawing board capable of achieving or nearly achieving Mach 2 speeds. The Soviets had successfully tested the MiG-21, a deadly Mach 2 interceptor that boasted great dogfighting capabilities. In the US, the F-104 was successfully greenlit as a Mach 2 interceptor, whilst the F-105 and F-4 Phantom were both planned as Mach 2 capable multirole aircraft. Hopes in Western Europe were pinned on Dassault's Mirage 3 design, a delta wing fighter that could serve as an interceptor. However, since mid-1950, the Draken design has been a primary focus for Saab. Bordering the Soviet Union, the Swedish Air Force required an aircraft capable of rapidly intercepting both supersonic bombers and fighter escorts. The requirements for top speed would be tough to meet, but necessary. In like manner, the design would need to be dynamic, all-weather capable, night or day, and strong enough to operate from makeshift wartime airstrips in Sweden, usually meaning highways or roads. Finally, it would need to be a fighter easy to both maintain and operate. A single pilot needed to operate all systems, while ground crew tasks had to be simple enough that conscripts could do everything if need be. In response, the Saab team began work on a delta design. Problems were encountered immediately. A delta wing would require the fuselage to be extended beyond what was planned, making the aircraft too heavy. Revisions were made, and testing began on a double delta wing instead, tests being undertaken on the Saab 210 to prove its integrity. Having taken its maiden flight in October 1955 without an afterburner installed, a follow-up flight was undertaken, this time with the proper engine. The aircraft inadvertently broke the sound barrier while climbing. By 1958, the first production model, the J-35A, had been placed on order. In 1960, this revolutionary design would enter service and during the same year achieve its first Mach 2 flight. In practice, the aircraft was highly agile and unstable due to the wing design. The Draken pioneered the Cobra maneuver, and pilots soon began pushing the airframe to its limits. Despite initial uncertainty regarding the aircraft's performance as a fighter, it was found that the double delta design offered a unique instability, not dissimilar to what would later be deliberately integrated into the F-16. With more archaic control systems, the aircraft was intensive on the pilot, requiring a more nuanced attention to speed, angle of attack, turn rate, and so forth. If managed properly, however, the result was a highly agile platform that, in theory, made it a capable fighter. Noting the capabilities, 3 other nations would purchase the aircraft: Denmark, Austria, and Finland, 125 foreign sales. In total, over 650 aircraft would roll off the production line. Several variants would be produced, improving the aircraft's internals dramatically over the decades. After the initial A model, a Fighter Bravo model would emerge in early 1962 in several sub-variants. It included a better radar, a radar gun sight, and more advanced air-to-air rocket capabilities. A twin seat trainer, the C version, SK-35C, emerged in 1961. The D model emerged in 1963, keeping much of the B model's internal systems. However, it featured larger fuel stores affording better range and a more powerful engine. The Recon version, the E model, emerged shortly after. Based on the D model, however, it lacked weapons and radar, instead furnishing a variety of cameras for aerial photography. In 1965, the F model emerged, another fighter. This had further improved internals, including the capability of fielding semi-active radar-guided missiles and infrared missiles. The final derivative would be the J model, emerging far later in 1985, as part of a life extension program that extended service into the 1990s. This partially modernized the aircraft with better internal systems, newer cannons, and more hardpoints. The Draken had impressive specs. Beyond its Mach 2.0 to 2.1 top speed, it had a ferry range of around 2,750 kilometers, a combat range of around 1,200 kilometers, and a service ceiling of around 65,600 feet. Armed up, it featured a variety of weapons: two 30mm Aden cannons, air-to-air and air-to-ground rockets, bombs up to 1,000 pounds, and missiles, including domestically built variants of the AIM-26 Falcon and AIM-9 Sidewinder. Marking the first of Saab's truly cutting-edge designs, the Draken would remain in service until December 1999. In 1967, a multirole platform would emerge. The Saab 37 Viggen, later referred to as the AJS-37, would be the world's first mass-produced combat aircraft to feature canards. Cutting edge for its time, the Viggen featured arguably the first modernized flight computer out of any Western European aircraft. A digital central computer with integrated circuits, capable of aiding the pilot in a variety of tasks. The aircraft had been finalized in 1963. A delta-wing design with a single engine, it was capable of operating from short runways or roads in emergency situations. With reverse thrust capabilities, it could land on short runways and take off on runways as short as 500 meters. On the drawing board, the design was meant to be cheaper and equally as effective as the American-built F-4 Phantom. It also had to fulfill the previously stated goals: short takeoff and landing in rugged conditions, all-weather capabilities during night or day, low-speed performance for fighting, and high-speed performance for intercept. Early proposals included a short takeoff and landing aircraft, while others were oriented towards the interceptor role primarily. The AJS-37 would be a mixture, a multi-role capable attack aircraft, which offered decent performance all around. Powering the aircraft would be a Volvo RM8, a turbofan engine, offering longer range at subsonic speeds, giving it an edge in its initially intended attack role. Once modified, the RM8 became the second afterburner-capable turbofan in production. Inside the aircraft was the CK-37, a central computer system developed by Dassault to lighten the workload of the pilot. Digital rather than analog, it could complete a number of tasks, including calculations for aiming weapons, navigation, and flight control. Groundbreaking for its time, it would later be upgraded to newer standards as successive derivatives of the Viggen emerged. In like manner, the aircraft initially featured a PS-37 X-band monopulse radar, allowing for a variety of air-to-air and air-to-ground uses. This would be upgraded in some models to the PS-46 pulse Doppler radar, featuring proper look-down capabilities which had been tested on low-flying F-4 Phantoms with great success, and the ability to track two targets at once in a track while scan configuration. Inside the cockpit, the aircraft featured mostly analog internal instruments. However, a digital head-up display was installed from the outset. Later on, other derivatives would feature several cathode ray tube displays, capable of projecting maps, radar information, and navigation assistance. Taking its first flight in 1967, The Swedish government greenlit production of the aircraft the following year. By July 1971, the first Viggen had been delivered to the Air Force. Several variants would be produced over the years. However, two main derivatives remained at the core of the program. The initial AJ-37, classified as an attack aircraft, it could also fill the role of fighter if need be. The other was a substantially different aircraft, the JA-37, an all-weather interceptor with a secondary role as an attack platform which first entered service in 1979. Paired with the Draken, the two major derivatives of the Viggen gave the Swedish Air Force near all-round capabilities, a stark difference to the US or Soviet doctrine at the time. Other models would be built, including an electronic warfare platform, a trainer, a reconnaissance and a maritime variant with a focus on recon over the ocean. In its most advanced form, the JA-37 interceptor could reach speeds just over Mach 2 at altitude, operate at ceilings of around 59,000 feet, and had a combat range of roughly 2,000 kilometers. Its armament included a powerful 30mm Oerlikon KCA cannon, sidewinders, the RB-71 Skyflash radar-guided missile, and earlier generations of Swedish-built RB-04 and RB-05 strike missiles. The multi-role capabilities the platform offered during the 1970s would even attract the attention of the Royal Australian Air Force, who would have been the only foreign operator of the platform. A proposed export variant was drawn up, the 37AU. However, the proposal was dropped in favour of the Hornet. Sales to India were also considered, but this effort would be blocked by the United States over a variety of concerns. By the 1990s, the aircraft had primarily been upgraded to a new standard, receiving the name now synonymous with the Viggen, AJS-37. The most recent development from Saab would take its maiden flight in 1988. The Yars-39 Gripen would be a small multi-role fighter capable of taking up the roles of both the Viggen and Draken, a single modern platform for the 21st century. In 1979, initial proposals were put forward. By the mid-80s, a prototype had been drawn up and was under development, taking to the sky in December 1988. The name Yars referred to the three roles the aircraft would focus on: air-to-air, attack, and reconnaissance. Designers took inspiration from several designs, notably the Mirage 2000, Hornet, F-20 Tiger Shark, and the F-16. One early struggle was figuring out the flight control system. Just like the F-16, the Gripen would need an onboard system that could automatically stabilize the inherently unstable aircraft in flight. The Saab team would eventually figure this out, but not after the crash of the first prototype and a second crash 3 years later. This highlighted both the danger of working with an unstable platform and the impressive achievement made by the F-16 team, who had figured out the problem 19 years earlier. By 1994, two variants were on order. The A model would be the base model, single-seat version. The B model would be a twin-seater, primarily used for training, but adaptable for use on special missions. In 1995, a joint agreement between Sweden and Britain resulted in the Saab BAE Gripen AB, with the goal of manufacturing and promoting the sale of the Gripen platform internationally. Part of the agreement would include the conceptualization and production of new NATO standardized versions of the aircraft. These would be the single-seat C model and the two-seat D model. In 1996, the aircraft would enter Swedish service. With similar characteristics to the F-16, it would feature multi-role capabilities with a specific strength in air-to-air engagements. By 2007, a further modernization to the platform was planned. A demo variant was shown off, featuring several upgrades, including a more powerful GEF414G engine, 40% larger fuel stores, a rearranged undercarriage, a higher maximum takeoff weight, and two further hardpoints on the fuselage underside. In an air-to-air setup, this new demo variant could carry 6 missiles, as well as drop tanks. The outcome would be 3 new derivatives: the single-seat Yars-39E, the twin-seat Yars-39F, and a Yars-39 maritime model not yet fully disclosed, but supposedly carrier-capable. The E and F are on order by Sweden and others, as will likely be the case with the Gripen Maritime, as Saab call it. Retaining the multi-role capabilities present in the original Gripen variants, these new platforms, broadly referred to as the E series of Gripens, will expand its intended role to further future-proof the design. Among the new and improved capabilities includes the ability to provide modernized electronic countermeasures, electronic warfare such as jamming, system linking, interoperability with other NATO systems, 10 hardpoints for weapons, and overall improved performance in the air. As it currently stands with the C model, the Yars 39 can achieve speeds up to Mach 2, with a combat range of 800 kilometers and a ferry range of 3,200 kilometers. It has a service ceiling around 52,500 feet. It is rated for 9G plus maneuvers and up to 12G if necessary. The C and D both feature a wide array of adaptable weapon systems. For air-to-air, the Gripen currently features support for several Fox 2 missiles, the Iris-T, Sidewinder, and A-Data, several Fox 3 missiles, the AMRAAM and Meteor, and ability to slew to a helmet-mounted display. Regarding air-to-ground, the platform can usually field the AGM-65 Maverick, Mark 80 series bombs, the GBU-12 and GBU-39, as well as the KEPD-350 cruise missile and RBS-15 anti-ship missile. A variety of decoys, electronic countermeasures, and recon pods can be fitted to the platform as well. Though the Gripen has now been in service for nearly 3 decades, ongoing upgrades and the introduction of the new E and F variants ensure the design remains firmly future-proof. These latest models expand its multi-role capabilities with advanced avionics, greater endurance, and modern weapons integration. Today, the Gripen stands alongside the Eurofighter Typhoon and Dassault Rafale as one of Europe's preeminent frontline fighters. In retrospect, Saab's progression through the jet age stands out as both ambitious and highly successful. From modest beginnings after the Second World War, the company produced a succession of capable fighters on what was, by international standards, a relatively small budget. Within a decade, Saab had delivered the Draken, a Mach 2 interceptor that briefly placed Sweden at the forefront of Western European aircraft design. The Viggen followed, a multi-role platform that introduced digital avionics and short-field capabilities that few other nations could match. Most recently, the Gripen has matured into not only one of the most capable fourth-generation fighters, but also one of the most adaptable combat aircraft of the 21st century. Across these designs, Saab has consistently proven that with ingenuity and focus, a smaller nation can create aircraft that are both unique and competitive with the world's leading aviation powers. Thanks for watching, and if you appreciate what we are doing, please subscribe and support us by checking out our merchandise shop.